So welcome back, everyone. Hope you're all hydrated and ready for our next speaker. So I will welcome Max to the stage. Hi, how's it
Hello,
going?
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. I'm a big fan of Svelte myself. I'm super curious about what you're going to show us today. But maybe first you want to share a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Max. I'm a front-end software engineer by day, working for a local startup in the city of Ghent, Belgium. Maybe you've heard of Belgium before. Um, when I have some free time, I also work on my own personal projects, which has mostly been Obsidian plugins. People might know my toggle track integration that I made, as well as a quick share plugin I made to quickly share a link to your notes. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so in these plugins, you're using this Svelte thing, right? Or are you using it in all of them, or is that something that you recently started doing?
No, it's really the bread and butter of my plugins. Especially my first plugin, the toggle timer plugin. It's a lot of like moving UI elements. You have like a clock, you have some bar charts. Everything needs to update as like your timers run. So there's a lot of state, and your UI has to constantly reflect the new state of your data.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you have to do it by just telling Obsidian, oh, create an element here and change the text there, it just gets cumbersome very quickly. And Svelte lets you be more declarative about it, lets you say, okay, here's my data, this is what it should look like. And now every time the state changes, just update it for me. And Svelte will then itself actually go in there and change the HTML elements.
So we're already started talking about state and reactive changes, and updating your UI and all that. But maybe you can give it like a brief introduction to what Svelte actually is, um, for
Yeah, so
anyone that doesn't never heard about it.
yeah, so I would call Svelte a templating framework, I guess, for creating UI components for HTML pages in general, and adding some JavaScript to them as well to make them interactive. Maybe people have heard of React or Vue before, if you're familiar with JavaScript. Well, Svelte is very similar to those, but it's kind of the new kid on the block, and it's getting a lot of hype. And in my opinion, it's a lot easier to learn than React or Vue, which is why I think it's perfect for an event like Obsidian October to get new people up to speed with this kind of stuff.
So what would you say, like, what's the main difference if I knew React, for example, or Vue? Why would I consider Svelte?
Yeah, so Svelte is a lot more lightweight. React and Vue kind of have a little rendering engine that tries to see like, oh, this is my state change. Now I'm gonna compare like the state of my current document with like what the new state will be, and it's constantly like checking if there needs to be updates. While Svelte is a bit different in its approach, it just kind of surgically goes into your HTML document and just changes little the minimum it needs to. It's also compiled, so you're not actually shipping the React runtime every time you load your plugin. You're just only shipping the JavaScript you need with your plugin, which makes your plugin a lot lighter.
So like a smaller footprint, essentially,
Yeah,
like
yeah, a
a
lot
smaller
smaller
file
file
size
size.
of your
Yes,
main.js. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, so I'm super excited to get started with the actual introduction. So how
Mhm.
this will work, I'm gonna have you kind of guide me. I have this environment that Max you sent me, and I'm
Mhm.
super curious about it. And I'm gonna see if I can share it first. Uh, so maybe you can introduce kind of what we're looking at here. Um,
Yeah, so what I did was I prepared a little demo plugin that's, I guess, very similar to what you're making in your little tutorial series.
mhm.
And I created a view here that just creates some elements, and you can see it on the right here. So it's a little Svelte demo view. It has a button, it has a little divider, some text, and I created it all in the same way as you explained before the break. So I just used the Obsidian API to create the elements. So the first thing we'll do is we'll kind of try to recreate this, but in a Svelte component.
Okay, so we're seeing like a kind of what I showed before the break, where you have it in kind of a separate method here that actually renders it. So, okay,
Yeah.
you're creating a few headers here, some text, some buttons. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and adding some styling as well.
Mhm.
It's not the most elegant. I could have done it in a CSS file, but we'll see
Mhm.
how this Svelte way to do it is.
Oh yeah, because now, yeah, you're all this stuff. That's kind of the styling, like adding
Yeah.
some CSS here. Cool.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you can actually go into the same folder as this file, and you can
Okay.
just create a Svelte demo view.svelte file.
Okay. So what does that file contain essentially?
So yeah, so .svelte files basically contain the template, the HTML template for a little component, as well as any JavaScript or TypeScript that we want to add to make it interactive. So
Okay.
to recreate this little view, we can just write HTML like you would for a web app or anything like that. So
So it
for
looks something
the
like this.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. So for the title, you can just use a header element. You can use a paragraph element for the little text.
Demo view, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, it was a header 3. I want to be. I want to do this right. Okay. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, and then just a little paragraph maybe. You can copy the text from the actual view.
Oh, here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing here. Let's copy that and we'll just add. So this is essentially HTML, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And right
Uh,
now it's not much of a template because there's nothing that changes based on the inputs or anything, but we'll get to that.
mhm.
So let's say this is our first version of the component. So now you want to go back to the actual view class that we have for Obsidian, and we want to render it. So first you can go ahead and remove all of this imperative code that we have for creating the HTML elements.
So all of this, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right. And then you want to, let's see, you want to import the component first. So at the top of your file, you can just do import Svelte demo view. Demo view from Svelte demo view. That's Svelte. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. And that should work. If you get little squiggly lines, you might have to just reload your VS Code
So
window.
I think it looks like it's the same name here. Does that matter? Or
You can just change the import name to Svelte demo view component.
yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
it's some. Oh, I can just type it like this.
Yeah,
right?
it's a default export. So yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. And now in the render view, you can just actually you need to add a little variable to your class called. You can just call it component.
Okay.
And you can give it the type of Svelte demo view component.
So this is actually a proper type.
Yeah. Yeah, it completely works with TypeScript, which is really nice. And then here you want to assign just a new Svelte demo view component to your the component variable. And then as the argument of the function, you have to give it a target, which is just the content element.
The content element, so that the one I used before, just to mount. So this is essentially what I'm seeing here is that I'm mounting this component on top of this HTML element, which is here.
Yeah, exactly. So before you mounted a bunch of different things to the content element, and now we're just saying, okay, we're just gonna mount one thing. It's the Svelte component, and Svelte will take care of everything else inside of this.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you can see on the right now,
we
have this actual
cool.
Svelte component shown. So yeah, you can edit some text in the Svelte template to make sure it's actually real.
Actual demo view.
There you go. Your first Svelte component.
Woohoo!
Nice.
That was not a lot of code, to be honest.
No, compared to what we saw before the break.
Yeah, I guess there's more going on in the previous one, but still, I like the fact that it's just HTML here. Like there's no ceremony.
It's a lot clearer, I think, when you just open a .svelte file, what's actually what it will actually show to the user. Okay, so maybe the next thing we can show is a little bit of reactive UI.
Yeah, so because right now there's not much difference from what we had before, right? It's just static.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm thinking we can add a little button, and then the button just says clicked 0 times, and then every time you click it, it will change the little string it shows inside the button. So you can just add an HTML button. It's that easy.
Okay.
And then you can, we'll leave it empty for now. Or you can actually just make it say clicked 0 times, so we can see it in the UI. Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, it works.
Okay,
good.
Cool.
So now we want to add a little bit interactivity, a little scripting to our component. So at the top of this Svelte file, we can add a script tag. And you'll want to add an attribute that says lang as in language equals TypeScript, so that Svelte knows you're using TypeScript. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll need a variable to store our counter. So just you can create a variable that contains 0. It's fine.
Just like this counter or something like that,
sure.
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have a starting value.
Yeah. And now we can add the starting value to the button. So what you can do in Svelte is, instead of writing the 0, you can write between squiggly brackets, I don't know the proper name, the variable. Yeah, exactly. So if you just write counter, it still shows the same, but now it's actually showing the value you put in the variable. So if you change that to 4 or something to...
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay. So the last
I believe you. I believe you.
The last thing we need is a function to increment the counter. So you can just declare a function, whichever syntax you prefer in JavaScript. Yeah. Just call it increment.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you can just inside it do counter plus plus or counter plus equals 1. Yeah. Okay. And then in the button, we need to tell it that on click, we want to use this, we want to call this function. So you can add an attribute on click.
So how do I, just like this, or?
Yes, and then you can, if you write that, I think it's without the capital C.
So it looks like it's suggesting something like colon thing here, like this.
Oh yeah, that's a Svelte way to do it. Yeah, the other one is just HTML, I think. But
okay,
that sounds good. And then you can use the same little squiggly braces to actually write the variable or like the name of the function. So you can just write increment.
Oh, okay. Just okay, I see. Like that.
I think so. So if you now click the button, it should start counting.
There you go. Nice. Okay, so before we go further, like what's actually going on here? Like this feels like magic in a way. How does Svelte know when to update? And
yeah, so this is what makes Svelte special compared to reactive view. It basically compiles your code, and when it compiles your .svelte files, it looks at which variables are actually being used in the template. So here it sees you used counter in the little text of your button. So that it knows, oh, when I see that counter changes value, I need to re-render the text in that button. So that's why every time you click the button, it changes automatically, and you didn't have to write a render function or anything like that, or do it yourself.
Okay. I like it.
All right.
So what's next?
Yeah, let me see. So right now we have reactivity, we have some, interactivity, we can re-render the component, but we can't actually put any data from outside Svelte into the component. So maybe we can make the title a variable as well that we can then set when we initialize the view.
Oh, like here, you mean?
Yeah.
Like a title, okay.
Yeah.
And then I create it up here like I did before.
Mm-hmm.
Svelte demo view. Okay.
Yeah. So now we made it a variable, but we want to set the value of that variable from outside the component. So what we can do is just add the word export in front of the variable. And then you don't even have to give it a value. So if you give it a value when it's exported, it's kind of like a default value. So when you don't give it a value, it will show that. But now we don't give it a default value, so it says undefined. So
you can type it as well.
Yeah. You can type it, yeah. So what we can do now is go back to our view class. And in the arguments, we can add a props object. And here we can just set the value for every variable that we exported. So we can set a title, so title colon, and then anything you want.
Okay.
And there you go.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah. So this is very powerful when, for example, you use Svelte inside of your modals to get input from the user, and you kind of want to give context to the user. So maybe we'll say a different error message, and you want to tell the component what the error should be, or you want to ask the user a specific thing that changes based on the context of the situation.
Right, because your component doesn't just live in isolation. Like when, for example, we saw, I believe last week, how to write settings, for example, and how do we actually get the settings into your component? So we got a question here. So can I pass Svelte components into the props? So I assume something like actually exporting like a component here. The question. So how do we get like essentially Svelte components? How do we use a Svelte component inside another Svelte component? That's how I interpret the question.
Yeah, so you definitely can pass components as props, but Svelte can actually has a lot of functionality to nest components as well. So we could just define a component, a new component, and then import it in our Svelte template, and then we can just use it as if it's an HTML tag, which is another really powerful feature, I think, of Svelte. If you really want to, if you don't know beforehand which component is going to be passed, I think I'm pretty sure Svelte has an API for rendering arbitrary components, but I think that's a bit beyond the scope of this little tutorial to show exactly how to do that.
Yeah.
But we could show maybe quickly how to make multiple components and kind of nest them together.
Okay.
So for example, let's say this little title, we don't actually want it to be an H3 tag, but we want something a little more reusable. So maybe we can go back to the files and add a new template called title.svelte.
Like this. Okay.
Yeah, and then inside of it, we'll create a little script tag that exports a title prop, just like we did before.
Like that, and then just same way we did before, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Title. I got it here. String. Okay.
And then we can just have like a one-line template that says H2 of title, something like that.
Yep. And then I'm using the same thing that we did before. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now we can go to our top level Svelte template, and we can remove the H3 tag.
Yeah,
with the
here,
title.
down here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
And if you start typing, yeah, an element called title with a capital T, I think VS Code is smart enough.
okay.
Yeah, I think it imported it. If you scrolled up a bit.
Oh yeah, look there. There it is.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
And now we just need to pass the title prop to it. So we can do that the same way we pass the onClick variable, for example. So just title equals, and then use the curly braces to pass the title.
Oh, the one we have maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is it okay? They automatically changed it for me now. So
Yeah, I think the repository I made is set up with prettier, so it tries to make it as compact as possible.
oh, so this is like a short form of what I was writing. Like I had this thing.
Oh yeah. That's a Svelte little nicety to make your code more compact. Is that if the prop you're passing has the same name as a variable, there's a little compact notation.
Okay.
So that works, I think. Looks like, but it's a little ugly, I think, because you kind of just want to pass anything in the title you want. Maybe you want to use another component as a title. So we can actually go back to the title .svelte template, and instead of using the title prop that we export, you can just remove the script tag entirely, and
Okay.
instead you can use a little tag called slot. And
Right.
so you
Okay.
remove the title.
And then like that?
Yeah.
Right. Do I pass it something or
I think for what we're doing, this is fine.
automatically updated? Yep.
Yeah, and then we go back to the top level component.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can actually really use it like an HTML tag. So we can just pass the title as the content of the title tag.
Oh, so something like this.
Yes, I think that should work.
Okay, if I save it, yes,
There you
that
go.
did work. Okay.
Yeah, so this makes your Svelte components a lot more reusable, I think, because now your component doesn't even have to know whether the title is a string or maybe some more HTML. It just passes it along to the contents of the template.
Right, because I could just I could add a button inside the title if I wanted to in this case, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not just text, but really anything. So I imagine you can kind of compose rather complex components this way.
Yeah, even simple things like adding an icon in front of the title or something like that. You can just write it in HTML, pass it to the title, and it'll be right in there.
Oh yeah.
So maybe the last thing I want to show you is Svelte stores. So this goes back a bit to the problem of having a lot of state in your app. So for this, in the little demo vault, you can go to the page called Managing Global State with Stores.
In the vault here. Yeah.
And I made a little diagram there.
Let's see. In here. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So imagine a scenario where you want to like render a list of all the files that are in your vault, but you have a very complex architecture of components living inside each other, and somehow you want to get access to this list of files. But ideally, your Svelte components don't know about the Obsidian API. You kind of want to keep them separated. So one way you could do it is just keep passing props down and down and down and down until it reaches the component that needs it. But that makes me feel a little bit like I'm a plumber and less of a software engineer. So we use in Svelte something called stores for this. And conceptually, I think stores are very easy to understand, especially compared to the alternatives for managing context that you see in React or something. It's just a variable, and from anywhere in your application, you can write to it and you can read to it from it. So in our main .js file, we can write the list of files to the store, and then from any component we can read it.
So it's like a global state, you know.
Yeah, but all your UI components can update their visualizations reactively to it. So it's very powerful.
Okay. So it's more like an external state that impacts the how the component draws itself or renders.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll create a new source file called stores.ts.
That.
Okay, and then we'll just define one store. So we'll call it file store. So you can make it a constant.
Okay. Export it.
Yeah, you can export it.
File store. Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll use the writable store. So I think if you start writing writable, which I always misspell when I try to import it. Yeah,
Okay.
you found it.
Yeah.
And then you just call it with the initial value.
Which is
just an empty list.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Something like
so
that.
it'll contain a list of file names or just files, but we'll start with just an empty list.
Okay.
You can add a type, but I think it should work fine just like this.
So this is kind of the initial state that if we don't update it, this is what we'll get.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we can go to our main.ts file.
Yeah.
And here we'll create a new method on the plugin class. Wait, now you're on the demo view, but I mean the actual main.ts of the plugin.
Oh, down here. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Gotcha. Okay, so another method here, you said.
Yeah, so we'll just call it write vault files to store, something like that.
Write vault files. Okay.
Yeah, and so here, what we want to do is we want to get the list of files that are in the vault, so we can use the this.app.vault.getFiles method, and we'll store that in a constant.
Okay.
And then we can just call filestore.set and then the files variable.
Oh, okay, so it comes with the set. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yeah, you might have to go back to the stores file and add a type. So just in I don't know what these braces are called. Yeah, T file. Perfect.
Okay, I think it
import type.
Once because we're not actually using the value. It's right. It's also a array here. So there we go.
Okay, now we're good. So now we want to whenever the Obsidian app creates files, deletes files, or renames files, we want to write to this, as well as on the onload of the plugin, we want to write to the file. Right to the file store. So maybe at the bottom of onload, you can start by just calling the function we just made.
Okay. All
right. Yeah, perfect. And then we need to register some Obsidian events. So you can just do this.register event. Yeah, sorry. Okay. The view updates a bit slow on my end. And then, yeah, the event is called this.app.vault.on and then parentheses. As a string, you write create. And then the second argument is a callback to the function we just made.
Okay. Let's put this a little bit. Actually, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this kind of subscribe to whenever we create a file in our vault, we're gonna run this callback.
Yeah. So you can just call the write vault files to store function again. Okay. And then you can copy and paste the register event 2 more times, because we need to do the same on the delete and rename events.
Okay.
There's probably a more compact way to write it, but this will work for now.
So what was the last one you said?
Rename.
Rename. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so now we have a store that contains an empty list at the start. And then when the onload method of our plugin is called, it will be populated with all the files in the vault. And then whenever we change a name of a file, or we remove a file, or we add a file, it'll be updated as well. So now we want to render a list of file names in our view. So we can go back to our Svelte demo view. And here we'll use a little bit of templating magic from Svelte called an each block. So let me actually see what the syntax is. So you use the curly braces, and then pound sign
hashtag.
each. Yeah. And then we use the file store, and because we want to use it reactively, we have to put a little $sign in front. So you can do $sign file store. And then you have to give like a single file a variable name. So just as file is fine. Yeah.
So we're kind of iterating over all these T files.
Yeah, exactly. And so maybe we want to put it in a list. So outside of the each block, you can start a UL tag, just plain HTML. Then you end it on behind it. Then for each file, we'll create an li, and element. And then here we can do file.name, I think it is, for the file name.
I think we need to import the file store, right? I think that's why it's complaining. Yeah.
I think you lost the view. Oh, yeah, you need to import it. Sorry.
So where is it?
It's in the same directory.
So it's like file store from
/stores.
In there, right? Okay, now it went away. Oh, look. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
And so, what's sweet about Svelte is we wrote like 2 lines with the each block, and we get rendering of a reactive list completely out of the box, just like that. So it saves so much time and complexity in your code to like start rendering lists of data, stuff like that. And now if you maybe create a new note, it should appear in this list as well.
So if I, let's see if I can resize this. So if I create a new note here, oh yeah, it created one.
There you go. It's in the list. Or if you delete one, or if you rename one.
So we have a Halloween theme. Let's call it my spooky note. See if that. Oh, that works too.
Yeah.
There you go. That is really sweet. I can totally see how this is going to be valuable, especially if you have a lot of reactive parts, things that change. If you're adding elements, maybe you're adding input fields for files, or whatever you may have it. Basically, if you have dynamic views in a sense, and I just like being able to write this is kind of like just HTML, and without having to use the create AEL inside our class, essentially.
Yeah, it's a lot more. You can focus a lot more on what your plugin should actually do, which is rendering or like showing information to users, and you have to think a lot less about just how am I gonna show this information to my users. So I think when it comes to Svelte features, I think this is all we'll show for now. But I do want to mention that on svelte.dev, there's like such great documentation for the framework. I think they did a really good job of making every page interactive. So when you learn, for example, about Svelte stores, it's not just a page telling you the API. It's actually like, oh, here's a thing that's broken. We can use Svelte stores to fix it. here you can try fixing it. And then it actually has like a before and after if you want the solution. So it's, yeah, there's so many learning resources. It's so intuitive, I think.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, definitely check that out if you want to learn more about Svelte.
Yeah. So another a resource that I will put out as well is on the plugin documentation site that I've linked in the past, but you can find it over at marcus.sc.net. Let's see. Okay. And then you have Obsidian plugin docs. If you go there, under getting started, there's also a Svelte section here where you can create because there is some configuration options that we didn't cover here, right? To get everything set up, you need to install some dependencies, right? So this guide will actually walk you through how to do that. There's an equivalent for React as well, but today we're doing one for Svelte. So here it is.
Yeah, and finally, maybe I'll mention all of the pages that you just saw in the little demo vault are available as an open source repository on GitHub that I created. And if you look at the master branch of that repository, it's actually just an empty template that has all of the setup already configured to start using Svelte with Obsidian.
How do I find the repository?
Yeah, you can go to my GitHub username. I think that's the easiest, which is mcndt.
MC. Oh, there you go. I'm cheating. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
So it's mcndt Obsidian Svelte template.
Yeah, and so the master branch is just empty template with all the configuration for Svelte already added. You can start coding right away. And then there's a bunch of branches as well for this workshop. So if you want to look at this code again, if you want to look at the instructions in the demo vault again, you can just see it all there.
Cool. Yeah. So you have some viewers who think that you should be doing more videos, Max. Maybe a few more Svelte advanced videos, or
yeah, maybe we'll do a second part on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, let's do episode 2. Yeah. Well, or you can just come back and share some more insights on Svelte here on the Obsidian channel. You're very welcome to come back.
Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you everyone for watching. This has been great. I've enjoyed having you with me here, Max. Thank you for a lovely introduction to Svelte. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you have some more resources out there if you want to learn more that we've showed you. And yeah, next week we have the 5th and final Obsidian October session. And we're going to have the final guest speakers there as well. So feel free to tune in next week for the last session for Obsidian October. And I really hope that you do submit your plugin that you've been building. I'm really looking forward to see what you're creating. So thank you for that. And I hope you tune in next week and see you then. Thank you, Max. And thank you everyone for watching.